Did Jesus, his mother, and his companions have black or white skin? According to the paintings and representations seen in European museums, Jesus is a tall, attractive guy with blue eyes, long blonde hair, and fair skin. In an attempt to demonstrate that Jesus was a European white man, that is the normal physical look of any European male. It's interesting to note, nevertheless, that Jesus' physical attributes are not explained in the Bible. How can we know what Jesus, his mother, and his people looked like? Then why have Europeans portrayed a Jesus of their own choosing? At that point, we must pay attention to the Russian vaults that include religious paintings from the 15th and 16th centuries. The way the Europeans portrayed Jesus is being called into doubt by the unveiling of these hidden artworks. The depictions we see in Russia are unique, maintaining realism, because Russia did not actively engage in Europe's promotion of whitewashed religious paintings. What then do these artworks imply? Let's investigate. So how has Jesus been portrayed in Europe? The world has been perplexed by Jesus' appearance up until this point. People still had concerns about Jesus' look despite Europe's best efforts to whitewash the Bible in religious artworks, particularly since he was a Jew born in Israel, where the majority of the population had black skin. Similar to his Jewish ancestry, Jesus' blackness denotes his affiliation with a certain group. Christianity's rejection of Jewish identity is the root cause of this racial dimension. The idea of whiteness, which suggests superiority based on cultural background and skin color, misses the fundamental Christian difference between Jews and non-Jews. It ignores the fact that Jesus, the Jewish Messiah, died on the cross to reconcile this division, which was first created by God, but was tainted by sin into conflict and separation. In light of this, any other distinctions between individuals, whether they be based on geography, language, social class, status, nationality, aptitude, and other factors should not be used as justifications for conflict or animosity. We are all one in Christ. As a result, the black-white racial divide is in direct opposition to Christ's teachings and his global mission. Jesus' race is significant historically because, similar to his Jewish heritage, like his followers, it placed him in a certain place and period. We must recognize that historical setting in which Jesus lived and died if we are to have a true understanding of him. The inclusion of Pilate's name in the Creed, as Karl Barth noted, indicates that Jesus' suffering took place in our concrete earthly reality rather than in some far-off place. As a result, we cannot ignore the complexity of the bodies and lives that Jesus associated with. Every member of Christ's body contributes special talents and gifts. As Paul explains, the identities of those individuals have a significant impact on how we perceive Jesus if he surrounded himself with particular individuals who were characterized by certain characteristics. The heresy of Docetism, which holds that Jesus simply seemed to have a physical body and concept incompatible with his divine nature, could be committed if one denies Jesus' blackness. While Jesus, a Jewish man, was the Word's manifestation, was a singular occurrence. Because of his resurrection and exaltation, he was able to appear in a variety of human bodies and cultural forms, transcending time and culture. Jesus Christ has historically been portrayed as a bearded, fair-skinned guy with long, wavy, light brown or blonde hair and frequently blue eyes. This is especially true in Western nations. But Jesus' physical attributes are not described in the Bible. The data indicates that he probably looked very different from the conventional depiction. There are very few hints in the Bible on Jesus' physical attributes. Much of what we know about him comes from the first 4 New Testament books: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These Gospels describe Jesus as a Jewish man who was born in Bethlehem and grew up in the 1st century in Nazareth, Galilee, which was once Palestine and is now northern Israel. Although the Bible states that Jesus began his ministry at the age of 30, it says nothing little about his physical attributes other than that he lacked any particularly striking features. According to Isaiah 53:2, the Messiah lacked any remarkable beauty or eye-catching features that would draw attention. This implies that Jesus most likely didn't have a particularly striking appearance. John's vision of Jesus in Revelation 1:14-15 is another instance of this. His voice is described as strong as rushing waters, his feet as flaming bronze, his eyes as fiery, and his hair as white as wool. The portrayal obviously leans toward black features and physical characteristics, despite the fact that it is not stated. As was typical of other first-century Jews from Galilee, a region in biblical Israel, the historical Jesus most likely had brown eyes and skin. But since no pictures of Jesus have been discovered during his lifetime, there is no conclusive account of his look. Jesus' physical characteristics are seldom mentioned in either the Old or New Testaments, despite the fact that King Saul and David are described as tall and attractive in the Old Testament. Furthermore, Judas Iscariot had to identify Jesus to his men among the disciples by implying that they were similar in appearance when he was taken into custody in the Garden of Gethsemane prior to his crucifixion. But their similarities and racial characteristics are not explained in the Bible. Thinking back on these incidents makes one wonder if the Gospel writers missed these facts or if some truths were purposefully omitted from the Bible to conceal realities. The depiction of Jesus as a white European man has come under increasing criticism during this time of contemplation on the history of racism in society and the pursuit of truth. One of the main causes of this scrutiny is a recent Russian development. By relocating one of Russia's most revered symbols from a museum to a church in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin has garnered attention. This has fundamentally altered our perceptions of Jesus, his mother, and his people by enabling the world to view religious paintings that were previously unknown. For a year, Andrei Rublev's Trinity icon, which primarily features black icons from the 14th century that were gathered from private collections throughout Russia, was moved from Moscow's Tretyakov Gallery to the Russian Orthodox Church. It depicts the Oak of Mamre, where three angels visited Abraham in the book of Genesis. Audiences have been enthralled by the beauty and relevance of these uncommon and remarkable artworks, many of which were destroyed during the Soviet era, offering a profound visual experience. However, what are these icons from Russia? And what's in them? Religious paintings from the 14th and 15th centuries are the Russian icons we are discussing. Following their conversion to Orthodox Christianity in 988 AD, Kievan Rus started adopting and creating icons. At first, these icons closely followed the models and patterns that were admired in Constantinople-based Byzantine art. But as time went on, the Russians greatly increased the variety of icon forms and varieties compared to other Orthodox nations. The distinctively inventive touch found in Western European traditions was absent from Russian ecclesiastical painting prior to the 17th century. But by the 17th century, religious prints and artwork from Protestant and Catholic Europe had a big impact on Russian icon painting, causing it to change dramatically. A split within the Russian Orthodox Church resulted from changes in liturgical traditions that Patriarch Nikon started in the middle of the 17th century. Although traditionalists, known as the Old Ritualists or Old Believers, they adopted the state church's method and stuck to the stylized representation of icons. Icons were then painted in the conventional stylized and non-realistic style, as well as a combination of Western European realism and Russian stylization, frequently mimicking the Catholic sacred art of the time. Despite being common in Russian Orthodox churches, these icons are also used in a number of Catholic church rituals. Usually made of wood, Russian icons come in a variety of sizes. Some are tiny, while others, which are seen in churches and monasteries, are much larger. Copper was also used to make certain Russian symbols. To show their piety, many Russian homes conspicuously place symbols on their walls in a special area called the Red or Beautiful Corner. Icons are frequently referred to as written in Russian, which reflects the word pisat's dual meaning in Russian, which denotes both writing and painting. Icons are considered to be paintings of the gospel, and great care is taken to guarantee faithful and accurate portrayal. Some of the most venerated icons, which are thought to be miraculous, are associated with particular localities, such as the Vladimir, Smolensk, Kazan, and the Czestochowa representations of the Virgin Mary, which Orthodox Christians call the Theotokos. In 1988, the Moscow Patriarchate declared Russian icon painter Andrei Rublev to be a saint and canonized him. The Old Testament Trinity is his most well-known creation. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. For their own usage, Russians regularly commissioned icons, which frequently featured images of particular saints that were connected to them or their family members. Typically, icons were embellished with metal coverings made of gilded or silvered metal, occasionally embellished with enamel or filigree work, or set with pearls and artificial semi-precious or valuable stones. Icon pairs with images of Jesus and Mary were common wedding presents for newlyweds. But, at the time, many were unaware that they were making history. The world's perception of Jesus, his mother, and his people was to be altered by the recent revelation of these icons, which were to be kept safe and kept in secure vaults. More than any other figure, the Virgin Mary is portrayed in Russian iconography and religious practice. Marian icons frequently depict the many images that are thought to be miraculous. Some Marian icons leave out the kid, but the majority show her holding the baby Jesus. But they all share one thing in common. Jesus, his mother, and others around them are depicted as being black. Some were smuggled out of the nation or concealed to prevent destruction. But many Russian icons were later destroyed or sold overseas by Soviet government operatives. Numerous icon painting workshops have resurfaced after communism ended, creating art for both home and foreign markets in a variety of genres. Many ancient icons that were previously hidden have also come back to the public eye or been repatriated from foreign countries. Museums' preservation efforts are the only reason the Russian icons that have resurfaced are still standing. Otherwise, they would have disappeared. There used to be many, but now there are just 50,000 left. The discovery of these emblems is a powerful illustration of the eternal force of truth. Their veracity challenges us to reconsider how we perceive the past, particularly in relation to how black people are portrayed. Even though these people may have been obscured for generations, their recent resurgence has brought to light hitherto unrecorded tales, upending long-held notions and encouraging a more inclusive interpretation of the past. At the moment, 40 Russian icons are on display for the first time outside of Russia, at the Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome. In order to shield them from actions of anti-religion following the October Revolution of 1917, these artifacts were concealed. This important collection of Russian icons is being displayed in Italy for the first time. A dozen previously unnoticed icons are also now being shown to the public for the first time. Icons, which are often constructed of wood, show saints or other holy figures. They are regarded as divine inspirations in the Orthodox Church, and artists interpret them under the guidance of divine inspiration. Their profound meaning perfectly captures the idea of an icon as a portal to a different reality. The attached cloth depicts the shroud that shrouded Christ's body, while the wood represents the Holy Cross, with its golden stage signifying divine light. One could argue that, like the pyramids of Egypt or the Greek temples, the Russian icons are extremely important in Russia. The exhibition covers the period from the 15th and the early 20th centuries, offering a unique window into the artistic expression of Russia's religious tradition. The discovery of these black biblical images has generated a lot of curiosity amid continuing discussions throughout the world. While some contend that aging is the cause of the icon's gradual darkening, others counter that the icon's accurate portrayal of blackness is a reflection of the skin tones of the people they represent rather than just age. Many scholars maintain that because the people shown were of African heritage, the icon's blackness accurately reflects their skin tone. They ask why, if aging were the only factor, that attire did not likewise turn black in these artworks. According to some stories, millions of Jews fled to Africa and lived in West Africa after Titus destroyed the Jewish country, where they ultimately ended up as slaves. Some contend that animosity toward black people is not a coincidental phenomenon, but rather results from the Israelites' rejection of God's commands as detailed in the book of Deuteronomy. The main reason for this animosity is thought to be the mixing of Shem's and Ham's descendants, who are both thought to be black-skinned, with Shem being punished for his disobedience. According to a different viewpoint, the Bible's original depictions of black people were later changed to show them as white in America. Nonetheless, the genuine portrayal of history is thought to have been preserved by the Russians. However, why are religious paintings of Jesus and his people exclusively found in Russia? Well, Russian history holds the answer. Russia's relations with the Byzantine Empire and the larger Christian world were significantly impacted by the Golden Horde, the Mongol invasion and occupation of the country. The Mongols, under the leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, started a number of armies. They encountered many civilizations throughout this expansion, including Russia, where they established the Golden Horde as a vassal state and forced tribute on Russian princes. Russia's relations with the Byzantine Empire and the larger Christian world were significantly impacted by the Mongol occupation. Russia and Byzantium were close before the invasion, especially when it came to religion, since Byzantine Christianity had been embraced by the Eastern Slavic peoples. The Byzantine Empire's city, Constantinople, was considered the spiritual center of the Russian Orthodox Church, but these connections were broken by the Mongol invasion. Communication and commerce channels suffered as a result of the Mongols controlling a large portion of Russia, cutting off contact with Byzantium. Additionally, the Mongols' enforcement of their administrative systems, which periodically clashed with the Church's authority, caused strain on the Russian Orthodox Church throughout the invasion. Similar paintings are thought to have existed in both Russia and the Byzantine Empire prior to the invasion. With the exception of Russia, which would remain under Mongol control for another 250 years, the whitewashing of church paintings had begun in Europe following the invasion. Because of this, religious paintings that portrayed Jesus and his people as black are only found in Russia. The rest of Europe bleached them. Thus, did Jesus actually have black skin? Indeed, Jesus was a black person. There is substantial evidence. According to the Bible, he has brown and ebony complexion, with feet like bronze and hair like wool. He was raised by a non-biological father because his biological father was not present. As a child, he fled to Egypt for safety. He was able to transform water into wine, among other wonders. Unfortunately, because his teachings harmed the state, he was betrayed by a friend, wrongfully detained, and eventually put to death by the government on false pretenses. However, how does this demonstrate that he was black? Whatever he went through seems to be a common occurrence for all black people worldwide. Jesus is without a doubt one of the most important historical characters, and it is crucial to recognize his black identity. A significant act of intellectual theft that upholds white supremacy is the European Church's presentation of Jesus as white. It is essential to embrace Afrocentrism and decenter whiteness. It entails consciously opposing white-centric viewpoints and embracing a black-centric one, which gives black people more power. Jesus' portrayal as black has religious significance. First of all, without acknowledging the black experience in the US, white American Christians could find it difficult to understand the full significance of Christ's crucifixion. This experience goes beyond particular incidents such as mass incarceration, segregation, Jim Crow legislation, slavery, and lynchings. 4 centuries of persistent second-class status, cruel living circumstances, Ongoing mistrust, contempt, and humiliation are all part of it. The message of the gospel, which is centered on the scandal of a crucified Messiah, cannot be properly understood without an understanding of this past. A true comprehension of the core of the gospel is impeded by disregarding or avoiding this history. Second, the Black Christian community is a substantial part of America. Although the majority of Black Americans identify as Christians, their faith is the same as that of those who oppressed and enslaved them. Jesus' teachings are embodied in the Black church's tenacity, optimism, and compassion, which create ties that elevate Black Americans above the status of neighbors or fellow citizens and frequently make them our brothers and sisters in Christ. An explanation for Jesus' blackness can be found in his own teachings. Jesus identifies with the downtrodden and disenfranchised in Matthew's Gospel, declaring that he will suffer the same fate as they do. Christian teachings about Jesus and the oppressed, which highlight his compassion for people in need, are based on this idea. Moreover, this interpretation allows Jesus to be depicted as Black in art. Black people are not forced into victimization or symbolism by such portrayals. Rather, they emerge from inside the community as a manifestation of common feelings, expressing both collective grief and optimism. Jesus' portrayal as Black rejects representations that minimize this reality and emphasizes the importance of recognizing the atrocities done to Black people. Jesus is shown as Black as a Jew because confronting the injustices experienced by Black people is inextricably linked to acknowledging his identity. Today, reality cannot be changed, even if Europe as a whole has been successful in deluding itself that Jesus was white. Russia's religious paintings provide compelling proof that, up until now, Jesus, his mother, and his people have been inaccurately portrayed. Everything changed when Jesus' skin tone was concealed, making him exclusively the savior of white people. The photo does not exactly match this, but everything begins to make sense if we finally acknowledge Jesus as Black. Considering that Jesus' suffering was not all that different from what Black people went through. Jesus, his mother, and his followers were all Black, not white. Isn't that right? Do you think Europeans depicted Jesus as white for a reason? What do you think about Black Jesus? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.